In this episode, we discuss key risks a life sciences company should consider during an acquisition. Our guest is Kenneth White. He's SVP of the National Practice at Aligned Insurance Services. And I am Darshan Kulkarni, Principal Attorney at the Kulkarni Law Firm. I focus my attention on FDA-regulated companies and their service providers, including issues involving medical affairs, clinical research, and drug advertising. Let's get into it. When you are considering a merger and you are a life sciences company, they're thinking about all the types of risks that a potential acquirer might be considering. Talk me through that process. How do you advise these companies to process this? If you like this type of content, please like, subscribe, share. It really helps the channel.
The process that we're involved in is due diligence. So on the due diligence side, it's okay, you've decided to buy company X. Company X is going to have a certain amount of risk that comes with it. Obviously, some of that is going to be financial, but then there are other risks that come with any company acquisition. We work to identify those risks, to see how the risks have been handled in the past from a risk transfer or risk financing perspective, and advise the clients on how that's going to impact the deal. If it's a $100 billion company buying a $5 billion company, then whether or not they have a multi-million-dollar EPL or employment liability risk attached to it's not going to make that huge difference in the deal. It's way down the priority list. We're still involved. It's still something that's very necessary, but it's not going to have the same kind of issues. If you're a $100 million company buying a $10 million company, however, and there's some latent liability out there that could cost the company $5 or $10 million, you've just eliminated the entire value of the company that you buy, if you haven't accommodated the risk. So that's what we get involved in. If I'm a pharma manufacturer, I'm going to manufacture a medication, and in most cases, my sales and distribution starts at the loading dock bay. So once I've rolled however it is, out to the loading dock and somebody else picks it up, I'm done.
FOB.
But whoever's buying it now has liability for the product from the moment it comes off the loading dock until the moment it goes to someone else. Now, you now have trucking, you now have shipping, you now have aviation expense associated with the loss of that property and how that's handled. You also have storage expense. For most PBMs, particularly the mail order PBMs, the big ones, or companies like McKesson or that are huge distribution chains for medications, one of their biggest risk is property related to the warehouses where they store the medications before it moves from one spot to another. I mean, one of those buildings is damaged. One of those hits by a hurricane or a tornado, it burns down. It has a contamination, environmental contamination. It's potentially billions and billions and billions of dollars. Negligent manufacturing, products liability, stream of commerce risk, those kind of things. And then you've got employees. Everybody's got employees. So you have EPL, employment liability risk. You have crime issues. You have fiduciary issues, depending upon who you are. And then you've got your commercial general liability, E&O, D&O, all of that kind of stuff. Then cyber, which is a huge thing these days. So we tick down all of those, identifying what risks the company presents, how they've traditionally handled it, whether or not there are gaps in coverage. Because most people don't understand, in the insurance world, gaps are a really bad thing, not just because they leave you without potential coverage, but it's very, very difficult to go back and put a bridge over a gap from an insurance perspective.
Kenny, I'm going to use this opportunity to have people come in, tune in for the next show, because this is such a great conversation on just the types of risks that people may be exposed to in the context of an M&A transaction. We're going to start digging in deeper into what those individually are, but stay tuned for those. But before we go, Kenny, any last words?
Transparency is usually the best policy there to let people fully evaluate the problem. Communication is one of the biggest things. Communication between your accounting firms, your forensic firms, your lawyers, the business stakeholders, and your risk consultants are very, very, very important. People can't do their job if they don't know the stuff.
Makes sense. Thanks again, Kenny. Need help with M&A due diligence? Call me at 302-25